Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so if you're prepping for the digital SAT, I bet you've done this. You read a question, scan the choices, and just pick the one that, sounds right. It's a totally natural instinct. But here's the hard truth. Relying on what sounds right to your ear, that is actually the absolute fastest way to lose points on the reading and writing module. Why? Well, because the way we text, the way we speak in our daily lives, it completely ignores the strict rules of formal written English. And that's exactly what the SAT is testing. So in this explainer, we're going to rewire your brain a bit. We're stripping away the guesswork and giving you the exact rules you need to beat this test at its own game. Here's our agenda for today. We've got decoding SAT reading and writing, 6 essential grammar rules, mastering SAT punctuation, tackling words in context, and finally, putting it into practice. Let's get to it. Okay, let's dive right into this first section, decoding SAT reading and writing. So the digital SAT reading and writing module is going to throw 33 questions at you per module. And listen, mastering these, it isn't about having some vague feeling for language. It's fundamentally about logic. The test makers are assessing your grasp of standard English conventions. Specifically, they're looking at boundaries, form, structure, and sense. Think of it like a puzzle. Every single correct answer has a structural, rule-based reason for being right, and absolutely every wrong answer has a definitive, rule-based reason for being wrong.
There's a stark contrast you really need to understand here. Conversational English is incredibly flexible, right? We all text in fragments, we use run-on sentences, and somehow we still understand each other perfectly through context and tone. But formal written English, it is rigid. A text message that sounds perfectly fine to your friends might contain a comma splice that the SAT will aggressively penalize you for. So you really have to train your brain to just switch off that conversational ear and turn on your formal logic.
Moving on to Section 2, 6 Essential Grammar Rules. Let's start with subject and verb agreement. Take a look at this sentence. The teacher with the green shoes live. Now, your ear hears shoes live and probably thinks, yeah, that's fine because shoes is plural. But wait, that right there is the test's absolute favorite trick. The true subject here is teacher, which is singular. The phrase with the green shoes is literally just a prepositional phrase perfectly designed to distract you. The correct version is the teacher with the green shoes lives. Always isolate that true subject.
Next up, we have pronoun agreement. Now, we naturally say things like, the Venus flytrap closes when they sense contact, mostly because we treat they as this universal catch-all in everyday conversation. But guess what? The SAT doesn't care about our everyday slang. The Venus flytrap is singular. It's one plant, so it requires a singular pronoun when it senses contact.
Our third big trap is modifier placement. If you write, using the results, a conclusion was reached, you're actually telling the SAT that the conclusion itself did the using. But a conclusion is an inanimate concept. It can't use anything. The correct sentence has to be, using the results, the research team came to a conclusion. The modifier absolutely must sit as close as possible to the person or thing actually doing the action.
So, to quickly summarize, lock these 6 rules into your memory. 1. Subject-Verb Agreement. 2. Utilizing tense clues to know if an event is past, present, or future. 3. Pronoun Agreement. 4. Knowing the difference between possessives like its and contractions like it''s. 5. Plural punctuation for nouns. And 6. Modifier placement. Honestly, master these 6 things and you instantly strip away half the test's difficulty.
All right, Section 3, Mastering SAT Punctuation.
When in doubt, leave it out. I want you to remember this, because it is your golden rule for SAT punctuation. A massive trap students fall for is just sprinkling commas or semicolons into a sentence simply because they feel like they need to take a breath. Don't do it. If you cannot identify a specific grammatical reason for a punctuation mark to be there, leave it out. Seriously, don't fall for the trap.
Here's another classic trap for you. You can never, ever place a comma between an adjective and the noun it modifies. Trista bought a blue, truck sounds obviously wrong, right? But the SAT is sneaky. They disguise this by using titles as adjectives. For example, they'll write acclaimed writer, Malcolm Gladwell. Acclaimed writer is acting as an adjective for the noun Malcolm Gladwell. There is no way a comma is allowed there. Now for the dreaded semicolon. You want to know the secret? It does the exact same grammatical job as a period. That's it. The whole shebang. It must separate 2 independent clauses that could stand entirely on their own as full sentences. So in our incorrect example, because Jesse is my friend is a dependent clause. It literally cannot stand alone.
Therefore, throwing a semicolon there is completely illegal. The correct version, Jesse is my friend, I invited him, features two perfectly independent thoughts. Boom, semicolon justified.
Which brings us to section 4, tackling words in context.
So what do these words in context questions actually look like nowadays? Well, instead of testing bizarre, ancient vocabulary like the old days, the digital SAT tests how common words change meaning depending on their surroundings. It also tests how an author's specific word choice affects the tone and style of a passage. It's so much more analytical now.
18. There are exactly 18 of these words in context questions across the test. To put that into perspective, that is nearly 20% of your entire reading and writing score. You absolutely cannot afford to guess on 1/5 of the exam.
So here is your 4-step battle plan. Step 1, read the whole paragraph. Context clues love to hide, sometimes even 2 sentences away. Step 2, predict the word before you glance at the multiple choice options. I can't stress enough how vital this is. Step 3, plug your prediction in and match it to the answers. And step 4, practice reading challenging materials to build that contextual muscle naturally.
Let's move to section 5 and see how this builds, putting it into practice.
Now, theory is great and all, but let's take this to the official SAT practice test. We're going to walk through 2 specific words and context questions together just to see exactly how these clues dictate the undeniably correct answer.
Okay, here is our first text snippet. It's from a story about a guy named Foxfoot who suspects his group is being followed. The text says, at supper time, Foxfoot would allow no fire to be built, no landing to be made, no trace of their passing to be left. The question asks what trace means here. Well, if we look at the context, Foxfoot is hiding their presence, right? He doesn't want anyone to find evidence that they were there. So the word trace directly means evidence. It definitely doesn't mean blemish or amount. The surrounding narrative logically demands the concept of evidence.
Let's look at another one. This text is talking about ancient sculptures of people's heads missing their noses. It reads, "This is because the nose is the most blank part of a sculpture. It is delicate and sticks out from the rest, making it especially easy to break." Look at the neon signs the author placed in the text for you. Delicate and easy to break. These clues logically, undeniably demand a word meaning easily broken. When you look at the answer choices, fragile is the only logical fit. There is zero guesswork required if you just follow the clues. It's literally like uncovering a secret built right into the test.
Which brings us to our final thought. Are you ready to stop relying on conversational English and start applying the rules? The SAT isn't some big, unsolvable mystery. It's a predictable, highly structured game. By mastering these rules, you strip the test of its power. You are in control. But remember, grammar is just one module. What logical traps do you think are hiding over in the math section? Take these rules, apply them to your practice, and stay curious. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.